My name is Sarah Gibbons.
Hey, I'm Rami.
This is Tony Kim.
My name is Michael Henley-Dunbar.
Hey there, I'm Tracey Ferenz.
My name is Jocelyn Kraynyk.
Hi, my name is Meghan Swaby.
I'm Shannon, Henley-Dunbar.
I'm an actor, vocal coach,
actor,
singer-songwriter, music
comedian,
producer, and arts
dramaturg.
educator.
I'm an actor.
I'm a theater actor.
I'm an actor and writer.
I'm a director.
I'm a multidisciplinary
A
artist.
musician, composer, audio engineer, and I have been living in Toronto for the last
Here
decade.
for about 14
I've been
years.
in Toronto for 7
Toronto
years.
for about 7 years
I've been
now.
living in Toronto for almost a decade.
Oh my gosh, I have to think how long.
And
And I've been living in
It
Toronto
is almost, is that right?
all my life because I was born here.
Almost 30 years.
I never left.
Hi, my name is Nikki Kuehnel. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I've been living in Toronto for 7 years. I initially moved to Toronto to study musical theater, and I've stayed ever since. But I currently don't work in that field, nor do I make money off of my art, so sometimes I'm left wondering, why am I still here? But there seems to be something about Toronto that keeps me here. So I wanted to talk to other artists and see if they shared any of these feelings, but more importantly, ask, why stay?
I didn't know who I was when I moved to the city.
I always loved the feeling of merging off the Gardner onto the lakeshore and like all of the big buildings rise in front of you and like weaving through them and the CN Tower looms above you.
I wanted to experience shows. I wanted to be inspired by shows. I wanted to talk to other artists who were either coming through the city or here permanently trying to make a living and figure out my place in it.
I was told by many, many people that Toronto was the place to go where you would audition for everything. I could get all the theater auditions I would need in Toronto. I could get an agent in Toronto. They said I would have to meet people, so Toronto was the place to be. And if I wanted to get into film and TV, then I really needed to be in the city.
I got a gig, I got a job, which is a great thing for any performer, really. I am still currently a host at a kids show for CBC. The film scene itself has been treating me so much better than Vancouver.
It felt really nice to be in a place where not as many people knew me, and the city felt really big, and the people here were really big, and no one was worried about me or focused on me, and I think that was really appealing to me.
It feels like I can be by myself without being alone.
I really enjoy about my life right now is the fact that I am making money, and so I can afford to splurge a little bit. I used to hate the fact that I was kind of bougie. I didn't grow up in a very high-income family. If my parents knew how I'm living right now, they would die. They would die.
I think it's just that, like, I started having peers that we had the same values and we wanted to make art in a very similar way. And that made it feel like home because I'd found people I wanted to work with.
Of course, when you do a show, you meet a ton of people doing Fringe or, you know, any kind of show. You meet other actors and you meet your people.
I've had to like work jobs I didn't particularly want to work and have stayed in institutions that were very harmful to my mental health, but I couldn't leave because I didn't have other work to take on. I am happy to say I do not work for those institutions anymore.
I think I spent a long time thinking, oh, I'm not a real artist because I'm not doing this full time. Like that, my art can't sustain me full time. And I think that's like the struggle of the artist for a lot of people. I think there's this notion of like, you gotta cut your teeth and do all these crap jobs. But if you're trying to do this as long as you possibly can and like have a full, rich life as an artist, like you have to live a life.
The dream as a musician is not to have a gig every night, it's to have free time, which I just think is so funny. Like, to have free time means that, one, you're making enough money with what you're doing that you don't need to be working all the time, but it also means you know where your boundaries are.
I've been really lucky to have jobs that I've been able to sustain myself with, which is hard, and sometimes that means working a lot, probably more than is healthy.
It's an exhausting place, and if you can't find the people who you can use those spoons positively for, then maybe don't.
We talk about finding community and finding these people, but a lot of the communities that I found within the artistic community have been through working. Oh, it's so annoying when you can't get the job, and then you're always trying to get the job.
And people are afraid to speak up about things because there is this hierarchy of like people in power. And if you're not one of the, 10 people who work all the time, you're always out of work and you're all trying to get work.
What are you offering me in return for me putting myself out there? Because it's, this expectation to do everything at one time is just unsustainable.
It's like we're all fighting over the same scraps, which I feel like can't possibly be true. It's a gigantic city. Why can't we work? Like, why isn't there enough work for us all to help each other?
I know that a lot of my actor friends are in places where they don't know where their next gig is coming from, which is why not many people want to be an actor. Like, or rather, when they figure out that that's what acting is, they no longer want to be an actor.
This is the spot that I've wanted to live since I was 16 years old, and I did it. I had like little sparkly feelings of the feelings that I thought I would have, but it didn't feel like I made it to where I wanted. The whole city feels like a building's going up in front of the CN Tower. The city now isn't one of the city that I fell in love with at all, right?
I like live inside a construction zone. Some people in my building are like, that's city life. I'm like, city life is a spaceship landing at 4 a.m. outside my window. I'm fine with noise. Like, I live in a city and I live on Bloor Street. It's brutal, frustrating, and makes me sleep deprived. So I'm paying rent to not be able to sleep.
You want to know why people are leaving the city in droves as artists? It's because you're actively shutting down opportunities for artists. Whether you know that you're shutting down artist opportunities or not, you got to look at how your legislation and your goals actually affect people and not your bottom line of dollars. There's so many construction projects that make so much more noise than a random band on a street corner, and by muting that band and saying that they can't do their thing, but we're going to give exemptions to building permits, you are actively saying that we don't care about community.
I think that no one does this alone. And when you're looking at people who are super successful, quote unquote, whatever that definition is, it's like they didn't get there by themselves. Even if your brain is making you think that they have, no one is doing this by themselves. And if they're saying that they have, they're lying.
I think it's important to surround yourself with people who get you and people who are rooting for you. And I've really learned that over the last few years, and surround myself with friends who are also artists who, you know, are supportive.
The reason I like staying in Toronto above community, above this industry, is I just love the city. I love being in a city where I can be independent, and independence is valued in this city, and that's something I value.
I love Toronto. Toronto's my home. I have a lot of people in my life through the city, and it changes every year pretty much. I find new communities and new people and new opportunities and new, even just areas of the city that I like exploring and being in.
I do think over the years, the more I've traveled, the more I do come to appreciate Toronto. But I do, you know, it's a wild city, man. Like, I ain't even gonna be like, oh my gosh, I love it all the time. Like, sometimes I need a break.
Toronto, intellectually, I understand that it is home, and I like it. And if I continue to be successful here, I will stay here, and I will be happy. I have my roots here.
All the time I think about leaving. It's really hard for artists. Mind you, where would I work? So this is the dilemma. Where could I work when I'm not acting that will give me enough juice to get through my day?
There's also a lot of sadness here and a lot of loneliness. There's also a lot of like great storytellers, and I'm excited about like the individual creators and what's happening, and also just thinking of where that can go.
I think about leaving all the time and kind of reflect on what my life could be somewhere else. I'm just not super ready to make that leap right now, and you need money to make that leap. But again, this is like one of the biggest hubs for artists, actors in the country, so it's tricky to make that decision. I definitely do think about it a lot more lately than I did 5 or 6 years ago.
I don't think that anybody should be paying the amount that they're paying to live in this city. I think it's expensive and I think it's messed up, but do I make it work? I do, because I do love being here, which it's a weird thing, but we live in this weird capitalistic world and kind of have to make it work sometimes, right?
I still like this city for the people I still get opportunities with. When I get to play shows at Drom Taberna, the time is never worth it. It is never quite worth playing 2 a.m. until we start playing. And then the second we start playing, it's like, oh, right, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm in this city. And it reaffirms every decision I've made over the last decade to be here.
I think that one thing that you get with a city that's so big is a never-ending kind of like turnover. I think that it very quickly can feel isolating. It can very quickly feel like you're in it by yourself, and the streets are really big, and the city's really big, and life is really big, and you're really small. But I think that if you look for the opportunities. Like, I've looked for so many opportunities to feel connected to people. And now I have so many different areas of that, you know? Like, there are those little moments of living in a city where you don't feel so anonymous, if you don't want to, are really beautiful.
I also have no desire to move to any other city in Canada aside from Montreal, and then I'd be like, I don't speak French. I also need somewhere with Black people. I can't do like a small town where I'm the only Black person. I can't.
There's a lot of young, cool South Asian artists out there, and I've gotten to meet so many of them, and it's been a really cool experience. And yeah, like finding that community and like learning more about yourself through that community will only help you grow as like a person and as an artist. Anytime if I'm at an audition and I see another brown person, we're always like, we see each other.
I think every time I walk around the city, I'm so profoundly thankful for the life that I have here and for the people that I've met and for the people who have proven to me that it's worth putting the effort in.
That's why I'm here, is because I made good friends. But I think that I started questioning why I'm here when we all went into lockdown, for sure, of like, why am I still staying here? And like during that, it's because I still had hope, right? But I think especially after like feeling at home in this apartment and then the landlord being shitty, and so much of our government doesn't feel like it gives a shit about me. What is there to give a shit about now?
It's never the place, it's the people that you're around. I think that's something that we're constantly told. It's felt like home because I now have roots here.
I feel really comfortable with the person I am right now, and it might be different in a year, and I hope that it is, and I hope that I've learned more and I get to experience more, but it's a constant evolution, and I think that living in the city gave me the opportunity to keep recreating myself.
One of the reasons I wanted to pursue a job at the AGO and at the Canadian Opera Company was because then I'd be surrounded by art. When I wasn't working, it would lift me up in a kind of way, and it certainly has turned out to be that way. It's gotten me through some really tough times, so I would say it has offered me solace, it's offered me inspiration, it has offered me a way to look at the world that I can live with when the world is awful. But more than anything, I think it has instilled in me a belief that I can get through anything and that I deserve to be here.
I think the brutal honesty that needs to be said about the city is that Toronto isn't special. It's just big, which means it has the resources to be something special. But it's how we use those resources that matter. So if the city of Toronto wants this place to be an arts hub, if the goal of the city is to continue to be an arts hub, the city has to invest in its people. And if they're not, then the people have to invest in their people. And the only way to do that is to create a community.
What I want to get off my chest is that being an artist in Toronto is really hard, and anybody who does that, like, good for you. You're amazing, and you don't always have to be an artist if you don't want to.
You've been listening to Why Stay? Created by me, Nikki Kuehnel. This piece is part of Fixt Point, Arts and Media's audio storytelling training program, The Empathy Squad, made possible by Canada Service Corps. Special thanks to my interviewees, Jocelyn Kraynyk, Rami Khan, Tracey Ferenz, Tony Kim, Shannon Henley-Dunbar, Michael Henley-Dunbar, and Sarah Gibbons. I'd also like to thank Will, Meryl, and the participants of cohorts 15 and 16 for your help and continued support throughout the program.